Have you ever thought about where diseases come from? How can a germ be so small, yet have such a huge effect on society? Believe it or not, in the 17th century, many people actually thought that diseases came as a punishment for bad behavior. No one believed that tiny microorganisms could cause a person to get sick. And then, the microscopic world was revealed with the invention of the microscope. Seeing is believing.
Zacharias Janssen is generally believed to be the first scientist to invent the compound microscope. This fact is sometimes disputed by the fact that fellow Dutchman and optical scientist Hans Lippershey is sometimes alternatively credited with this invention. However, because the time in history that is generally agreed on when the microscope was invented is 1590, when Zacharias was relatively young, many scholars believe that his father, Hans, must have also been a primary influence in the compound microscope's creation.
Well, microscopes occurred when people start combining lenses. Lenses were actually known even in the Greek and Egyptian old times, but the combination of two lenses resulted in a microscope, and that was done more or less in the 17th and 18th century. And a well-known case is the Anthony van Leeuwenhoek applied it to look at the drop of a pond water, and to his great surprise, the water is full of life. Various small microorganisms which were moving, swimming, left, right, and so on. So for the first time, humans discovered a whole new group of life, something that they knew nothing about until the invention of the microscope.
With the invention of primitive microscopes in the 17th century, scientists were able to study microorganisms. Before the germ theory, it was widely believed that disease was a punishment for bad behavior. Some believed that the cause was foul vapors from swamps or sewage, and others thought that disturbances within the earth caused widespread epidemics. The germ theory of disease states that microorganisms can invade the body and cause disease. Because these microorganisms are too small to be seen without a microscope, the microscope was the key that unlocked this discovery. German physician Robert Koch proved that bacteria can cause disease in 1876. He demonstrated that the bacterium Bacillus anthracus was the cause of anthrax in sheep and cattle. He also discovered the organism that caused tuberculosis. Koch developed a system that could prove that a particular organism causes another specific disease. This became known as Koch's postulates. They set up a strong foundation for medical microbiology. It also began a golden era from the years 1879 to 1889. During this time period, German microbiologists found out which organisms cause many different diseases, including cholera, typhoid fever, diphtheria, pneumonia, tetanus, meningitis, and gonorrhea. None of these discoveries would have been possible without the aid of microscopes. The invention of the microscope brought a time during which scientists worked to show that microorganisms can cause disease in humans. These advancements reduced the transmission of disease in hospitals and in the community.
Since people had no ideas that infections and various diseases are caused by the microorganisms, by the bacteria, by viruses, and so on.
The microscope has gone through immense changes throughout each and every century. Way back in the 1500s, the art of grinding lenses together came into play in Italy. The first spectacles were created to improve the vision of those with a deficit. Contrary to popular belief, in 1590, two Dutch lens grinders, Hans and Zacharias Janssen, actually created the first microscope by placing two lenses in a tube. Robert Hooke first began observing objects in his microscope in 1667 and went on to publish his discoveries in his book Micrographia. His most well-known study was of the cork and its cells. In 1675, Anton von Leeuwenhoek uses a simple microscope and observes a variety of objects. In these studies, he became the very first person to describe cells and bacteria, thus creating an incredible breakthrough for the medicinal and scientific world. Throughout the course of the 18th century, a great deal of technical innovations made studies via a microscope much more common in science. Improvements were made to the microscope in effectiveness and simplicity. Importantly, it was discovered in this time period to combine two different types of glass to improve visibility even more. In 1830, Joseph Jackson Lister improves the microscope even more by determining that the combination of multiple weak lenses made for a good quality magnification without blur. In 1878, Ernst Abbe comes up with a mathematical theory pertaining to wavelengths of light. This makes the calculation of maximum resolutions in microscopes a reality. Richard Zsigmondy in 1903 develops an ultramicroscope that is able to study objects under the wavelengths of light. In 1932, Fritz Zernig invents the phase contrast microscope. This enables the studying of objects without color and that are transparent. In the year 1938, Ernst Ruska developed the electron microscope. This huge breakthrough in microscopy enables scientists to have greater resolution and broadens the horizons of what can be explored. In 1981, Gerd Bennig and Heinrich Royer create a scanning microscope. This is huge in that now scientists can now look at an object three-dimensionally, even on an atomic level. The inventions from 1903 on all won Nobel Prizes in physics or chemistry, thus clearly having an immense impact to deserve such an honor.
The microscope had a drastic impact on society. This progress came in a ripple effect. Each advancement gave way to another. The medicine and vaccines that scientists developed improved the health of society as a whole. No one could believe that researchers actually discovered a way to prevent diseases before they came. Suddenly, every day, more and more people were able to fight against diseases with the constant advancement of medicine. Along with microscopes impacting the medical industry, the invention of the microscope had a huge impact on the entire world. Before the microscope was invented, doctors did not know that they needed to sterilize themselves from patient to patient in order to refrain from spreading germs. Without having the technique of killing bacteria through pasteurization and sterilization, germs would still be out of control. Infinite fields of science would not exist, and without these fields, we would not have the discoveries needed to live as we do today. And as these discoveries led to new inventions, it opened up more and more job opportunities for the world as a whole.
Microscopes are not only useful to us, they're actually essential. Without microscopes, we could not exist.
Imagine a world with disease and illness around every corner. A world with the fear of death looming in your mind at all times. A world without any of the advancements we have today, for the inventors died of cholera or tuberculosis. This is how the world would be without the innovation of the microscope. The microscope greatly changed all of society, beginning with the simple act of grinding lenses. No one could even imagine how the microscope would further the success of the world, but it ended up changing the views of all of humanity. Therefore, without the microscope, many of us would not be alive today. The microscope has and will continue to change the world forever.